Hey you guys, I'm Dominique Murray back with another episode of Make It Happen Sis, the podcast, where every week we bring on Make It Happen Sis members so they can discuss their business, the ventures they have going on, and then the two of us will dive deeper into the topics of today. And so in today's chair we have Miss Marsha Marshall. You want to go ahead and give us your elevator pitch?
Sure, we'll just jump right
Yeah, we're
into
gonna jump right into
it.
it.
Okay, well, again, my name is Marsha Marshall. I am the co-founder of Marshall and Marshall Nonprofit Consulting. And so essentially, M&M MPC is what we call it. We're a professional consulting firm local in the area where we provide nonprofit development services, grant management, and program evaluation. Our mission is to prepare today's nonprofits for tomorrow's success. And we do that by not only educating the nonprofits, but we equip them with the tools and the resources necessary to make impacts in their community.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That is a lot and is very needed. We have a lot of nonprofits in our organization and throughout Warner Robins and Middle Georgia. So I'm glad to have you on today. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then actually the topic of today is going to be the price is the price, valuing your business. And so I'm really excited to talk about that.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of us, especially female entrepreneurs, that is something that we struggle with, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so before we get started, I do want to mention really quick that every episode for season 1 is filmed here at the beautiful Lavino Wine Bar in Warner Robins. Today we are actually sipping water. It's a little bit early for wine, but as you can see, we've got some wine out here. The scene here is great. Make sure you check it out. Again, that is in Warner Robins, Georgia. And we are going to roll right into it. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So, Marsha, can you give me more on how you actually got started in this industry?
Sure. So essentially, I did not go to school for grant writing. I kind of stumbled upon it actually. I spent a lot of time in corporate wellness, and so about close to 10 years in corporate wellness, and I was looking for my purpose work. And so I actually saw an internship. Someone was looking for a grant writer, and I think I reviewed grants maybe a couple of times and said, maybe this is my way to kind of get some skills, gain some skills. So that was in 2012. Went on a first day into this nonprofit, and I said, there's a grant due in 3 days. And I was like, you want me to write it? So essentially, I took the time to learn everything I could about this nonprofit. I did a little research before going into this internship and wrote the grant, and it was awarded. And so I figured there must be something there. I don't know if I had the sauce at the time, but it was kind of like what gave me the confidence to go into grant writing. So that was 2012. Worked with that nonprofit, which was a charitable clinic at that time in Atlanta. Worked with a few other nonprofits in Atlanta. Fast forward a few more years, and then the burnout happened. I had a 3-year-old son and a brand new baby girl. And I was driving back and forth to Atlanta, spending all this time working with nonprofits. And someone asked me, have you ever thought about writing grants just as a consultant? You know, you have kids. It might be an opportunity where you can just provide some flexibility. And so 2015, I thought about it. And then I talked to my husband and I said, I think I'm going to quit my job. Full-time director of a nonprofit, and we just took a leap of faith. And so 2016 we launched Marshall and Marshall Nonprofit Consulting, primarily at that time just focusing on grants. And so it's been an interesting journey. Like I said, not trained professionally, just kind of got the experience, but a lot of soft skills that I had from my previous jobs kind of led to this.
I love that, and I love how you were able to get uncomfortable, right? Like you said, like you didn't have the skills, but you're like, let me try it out, let me test this out. And then even with the recognizing the burnout and being able to pivot with that.
Absolutely.
So I love that. Those are vital things to, to be aware of. I did ask a question. You mentioned corporate wellness. What is that exactly?
So my background is actually in kinesiology, exercise science. So I worked in a lot of hospital systems, doing health promotion. So working with whether it was employees there or if there were specific patients in that particular hospital. I've also spent time at the Center for Disease Control, also known as the CDC, and doing health promotion. And so that's what I love health and wellness. And so that's kind of still my passion. But again, I was looking for something more meaningful because it was a lot of like outputs and outcomes. Like everything we did, there was a metric that was measured, and I felt like there was more that I could be doing other than kind of like racking up outcomes. So that's basically where I started, and again, still my passion, but I really like what I do working in the community as well.
Yeah, and those are pretty different, going from wellness work to now, well, kind of, but now in the nonprofit industry. What would you say is what you love most about doing the work you do now?
I actually like teaching organizations to be sustainable. And so a lot of people kind of see me as just the grant writers. Like, we get money. But it's so much more when you talk about nonprofits being sustainable. Are they sustainable as far as their structure and their processes? Do they have board members, the community support? And so really just kind of going in and working, like getting to know the organizations and then giving them tips and tools so they can not only be successful with getting funding, but also getting community support as well.
I like that. It's two parts of that. Like, you might have all the money in the world, but if you guys don't have the volunteer, the systems to keep it running,
absolutely,
it's not going to run. You mentioned that you started this with your husband, right? So how has that been, working with a significant other, working with family?
It's definitely been a journey and a unique one, but it took some time for us to kind of really get a flow of what we wanted to do. He's more of the numbers. His background is in finance, but he's also has some experience in like taxes. So nonprofits actually need like their taxes done with 990s, and actually to set up a nonprofit, you have to go through the IRS. And so he had some experience there. And so we were able to kind of say, okay, I'm going to stay in my lane. I know that I'm a wordsmith and I write and I like to tell the story. My husband is very much kind of analytical, numbers. And so he gets, like, for instance, if someone is interested in starting a new nonprofit, then he's the one that starts the process because he knows all the ins and outs with the IRS. He knows what it takes to be compliant with 990s with the IRS. So that's kind of his end. And it's been interesting since COVID because we work from home. So he still works a full-time job, but he also does the consulting piece as well. So we see each other literally all the time. And so that has been interesting, but we know how to kind of cut it off, like at a certain time. It's like, okay, we're not talking about work. We have kids. And then there's us as well. So it's been an interesting journey. But 7 years later, we're still in it. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
Like that's a accomplishment within itself. Being around for 7 years and then having the little one. Your kids are
12 and 8.
Okay, so they're older now. But
yeah.
How has it been are they at home with you guys too, or?
Summer, yes. They're eating a lot of the internet right now. But yes, they're at home. But the beautiful thing about being in this business and being a consultant, I can schedule my hours and I'm available to them. So when they're in school, I'm working, but they have tons of after school activities. So I know when to kind of cut it off. Sometimes people will see me in the parking lot still working, but I'm able to kind of take them to their practices, be there at their competitions and their games. And so that's another thing that's wonderful about being able to take a skill that I'm pretty good at and that I actually enjoy, but still have flexibility to spend time with my kids and my husband.
That's nice. What would you say has been the most challenging part of running your business and working with nonprofits?
So running the business, the most challenging part in the beginning was definitely getting the financial footing because, again, I left a full-time job with benefits and left the rest kind of my husband. So it took time to like build the client base grants and really kind of like hone in on, okay, these are the services that we're providing, because some people will come to you and ask for things that you kind of know how to do, or you have some experience, but it's not what you're specifically offering. And so really determining, okay, is this an avenue that I want to take, or, do I just stick with what we are, what we said we were going to do? So that took some time to really start seeing profits. It was a lot of, again, just relationship building and to get clientele. The toughest thing with working with nonprofits, which there aren't a lot, because again, I like just seeing the impact that they're able to make because they're sustainable. But similar to just being a business owner, I think with nonprofits, they think with grants it's an automatic fix. And so they come expecting kind of like quick results. And so just really keeping them engaged to play the long game. It's more than just grants. So getting them ready to go out into the community and make these, establish these relationships so that they can have different streams of income coming in, how they market their nonprofits. Is their board equipped to lead? And so really just getting nonprofits to understand that to be successful, it takes more than funding. I think that's been the most challenging. Those that have been successful working with us, they kind of understand, like, it's from A to Z when it comes to, keeping a sustainable nonprofit.
I mean, it's pretty much like running a business, right?
Exactly.
Like, you need the same kind of setup and same systems and processes to make sure you're doing good. So with that, you guys do a lot of grant writing stuff, and it's all about, getting the funding. And so I think that kind of ties in with today's topic about, money and valuing your business. And a statistic that I read a while back was talking about, self-employed men, they make about 28% more than self-employed women, right?
Right.
And so, I think it's interesting because in your business, it's you and your husband, right? So you guys kind of got both. And you said he's a numbers guy. And they say, in these reports that women, we don't value our businesses as much as men. So in your situation, do you think that was something that you dealt with personally, and then did he kind of like offset that? Like, how did that work with you guys?
Absolutely. In the beginning. And it's funny. He's the one. I'm very much hard nosed when it comes to like our prices. He's a really nice guy. He's like, well, I think maybe in the beginning when you're trying to build clientele and get trust of organizations and people, you do bend a little. You're more flexible, and you're also trying to figure it out. Like along the way, like, is this the way I want to promote this service, or is this the way I want to do it? So in the beginning, it was there was some pro bono, there was a lot of like really discounted prices for our services. But a couple of things I had to think about. Number one, when you're working with nonprofits that doesn't mean they don't make a profit. So they have funding. They may not have as much as they would like, but there is funding or ways to, retain services for grant writing. And if not, then there's other ways that they can do that. So I had to kind of get in the mindset of, okay, nonprofit doesn't mean I have to give away my services. Also, with any business, you want to think about like what the market value is of the service. And so I saw myself kind of lowballing and looking at what other grant writers are making. And when you do that, you kind of dilute the product. You got other grant writers doing the same thing. There's some who charge astronomical amounts of money, and that's on them. But, just to keep it fair for everyone doing the same service, you don't want to water it down so much. So I have to remind my husband that when he's filing these 501c3s, he'll see law firms. He's like, well, I'm not a law firm, but you're doing the exact same thing. So it's really, when people come to you, they're coming to you because you have the expertise in this particular service. And so just kind of reminding ourselves of that, something that we've done to kind of help with that, because we know everybody's budget is different. We have different packages. So we will have like a basic package that includes these services, and then a deluxe that has these services, and then a premium. So kind of like if you were to subscribe to like Canva or like a Google email or something like that. There's always like a basic package and then so forth. And so that way, people who are interested, they have options. So it's not saying this is the only thing that we can provide, but if this is in your budget, these are the services that are included. So that's one way that we've been able to kind of deal with that. And it's still tough, but as of lately, we've been really just sticking to it. I don't know if everybody's seen like the economy and inflation and things like that, but you know, we believe in what we do, and we believe in the skills that we have. So I think that's important, not for just women, but for men across the board who are entrepreneurs, to really just stay firm with what your price is.
Yeah. And I like how you shared that in the beginning. You know, it wasn't that firm because you are growing, you're trying to learn, and I think a lot of us entrepreneurs do that. Is you know, is this the price I want to do? Or you know, sometimes I think a lot of it is that people don't feel they have the experience yet, even though they have the skills, right? But they don't have that length of business. Say, hey, my business has been around this long, you know, this is why I can charge that. What do you suggest to people that kind of might be dealing with that? They're like, I'm brand new, I can't charge what I'm worth.
That's definitely that's a good question, and it's valid as well. Kind of similar to like just seeing what the market rate is. If you were looking at any job and you want to see, you know, what the starting salary is of a particular position, you can look at it that way. So if you have a particular service that you're providing, kind of see what that range is. And if you're like 1 to 2 years in, then maybe kind of look at the lower end. I wouldn't, you know, suggest going out brand new and then charge top tier for the service. I would not, because you got to be able to back it. Like if you're gonna, you know, put that price out there, you got to come with it. So definitely just kind of take a look at what people typically make in the field, in that particular market, and then set your prices based on that. And Google is your friend, so you're able to define that information just about, you know, in about 5 seconds for most service, I would say.
And now kind of taking it back to women, and I know you said this was more so with your husband in your situation. Why do you think we as women are the ones to be quick to be like, okay, let me bend on this, or let me give this away for free,
I think it's just almost like because I don't want to say women are more giving, but I think when it comes to things like, I call it the homegirl hookup, we have a lot of that going on. So in my instance, I have a lot of friends that'll like to refer, and they'll say, well, I know this person who's looking for services, and so it's you're almost like inclined because your friend, you know, referred. It's like, oh, I want to, you know, let's see how we can make this work. And in a lot of cases we do, but I stick with that price list. But initially it's easy to be like, oh, well, you get like a 35% discount before even talking to, because your friend, you know, referred you to this person. So I think it's a lot of that. Sometimes it's expectation. I think, you know, women volunteer a lot more. We have a lot of skills that we just give away freely anyway. So whether we're in our churches or our sororities or whatever the case may be, we're usually giving. And so I think mindset wise, it's easy for us to say, well, you know, it's for a family friend. I can do this for free or for little or nothing. But, you know, inflation again, the economy, you can only do that so long. Right.
You talking about that actually reminded me of a book that I read. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Have you read, what's it called? We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers?
No.
Okay, that I would say definitely read that book. That kind of ties into the line of valuing your business and stuff. And she makes a really good point about, you know, as women, we are more giving and we want to help and stuff. And she's like, well, how many more people could you help if you value what you do and charge what you want to charge? She's like, then you can, you know, hit your million and do what you want with it. And it's like, I never thought of it in that perspective. I'm like, it's not greedy to want to strive for, you know, certain things. So,
and I think that's another thing. I think that the perception, we don't want to seem like we're just only after money or we're chasing dollars. And typically, it's, men, it's okay for them to be a little bit more aggressive in that regards and be more ambitious when it comes to that $1 million status or whatever it is. And for us, it's like, well, there's a little bit of humility, and there's a little bit of, I don't want to be seen as this way. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, I agree. And it's almost kind of like a shame with it. Like, if you get to, you're like, oh, that's not me. Like, I'm still one of the girls.
Right.
We gotta let go of that.
Exactly.
We really do. With being with working with nonprofits, I know you said in the beginning you kind of did pro bono work. Do you find that people just kind of assume that you do that? How do you deal with that?
And it doesn't help, like, we're Marsha Marshall nonprofit consulting, and so people assume like you're not making a profit. And so I say, wait, it's not what that means. We help nonprofits, but we do. It's usually kind of that same, again, homegirl hookup, or we have a lot of, like, my husband's family is really large, and so they know people all across the U.S. And so I've had a few times, even this year, after being in this for like 7 years, people ask, well, we can't afford that. What can you do for us that basically free 99? And so, we do get a lot of, not a lot as we used to, but we do get some people requests. And the way that I kind of deal with that is I will direct them to, maybe there's programs where people are looking for internships. And so I know there's a few campuses a lot around here. I think Middle Georgia College close by has an MPA program. So if I can't do the nonprofit consulting or the grant writing, there are students that are looking for internships. And so it might not be the pace that they want, but it gives them another resource. So I don't like to say, no, I can't do that, and then don't give them anything. And so if I can't provide pro bono, I do try to provide some type of resource that they can look into that may be more within their budget.
I like that, giving them some options, so you're not just closing the door on them.
Right.
Kind of going back to what it is that you do with grant writing and stuff. What do you love about the actual grant writing process? Like, can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, it's one of those things, you either love it or you hate it. Like, there is no in between. And for me, it's one of those things that was kind of missed early on. I've always really liked writing and telling stories. And I thought about something. I came across a certificate that my mom kept for like years, and it was, I won this contest in the first grade for this creative writing contest. And so I was looking at it and I was like, but everybody's like, you should be a doctor, So I'm taking all these classes and everything, and never really thought about writing, but I've always kind of journaled, just creative stories. So what I enjoy most about working as a grant writer with nonprofits is really understanding what they do and being able to kind of put that in a story form where you can like vividly see what it is they do, who it is they're helping, why they're doing it, and the impact that they're making. So I think that is probably my favorite part of grant writing.
That sounds really. I took a course years ago when I was getting my sociology degree, but I think I got turned off by the class because the way the concept was, you did like group work. Like, there's no work you do on your own in that class, and that drove me crazy. So I didn't really get into it, but you do make it sound, just really like you get to tell these stories, and you're helping those organizations. Have you thought, and it's kind of off topic a little bit, but going back to the whole corporate wellness and all of that, like, have you thought of ways how you can kind of get back to that in any way?
Well, yeah, so something else we do is program evaluation. And so that's basically where an organization, whether it's a nonprofit or any agency, they have a grant. And so they have to talk about what they did with the money, basically. And so we do that by showing the outcomes. So back to those numbers, showing the outcomes of what they've done. But a lot of my program evaluation work is in not corporate wellness, but in public health. And so I've worked with local health departments, Currently working with a maternal health group as well. And so there's still some aspects of wellness where, and that's why I really get excited. It's like, oh, okay, I can do both. So I'm able to work with organizations that are doing things in public health, maternal health, those who work in health disparities, focusing on African Americans. There's some physical activity that I've been able to work on with the program evaluation. So I find a way to kind of match up my skills. And usually do that through, I'll see like an RFP, and so that's like a request for proposal for someone needing those services, and then we just put a bid in for that.
Oh, okay. All right. So back to your business. What does the future look like for you guys? What do you think?
The future, hopefully still around. You know?
Okay.
But no, right now we're working with some pretty exciting and engaging organizations on all services. So we're doing a lot of grant writing still, wrapping that up for the year. It gets a little busy around fall. And then program evaluation, working with, again, a maternal health group, a local board of health, and so wrapping that up. We also have a course, and so during COVID, we launched a course called Ready, Set, Grants. And essentially what this did was prepare new nonprofits for all the things they needed before they started applying for grants. And so we piloted the class with an organization. They did all the things. In their first grant, they got $400,000.
Oh, wow.
And so there was some, I was like, okay, we're on to something here. So what we'll do is do a relaunch. And so we're just kind of improving, making sure that it's accessible. It is an online course. And so we will be relaunching that this fall. So be on the lookout for that.
That's exciting. That's really exciting. What advice would you give women, and this is going back to women in particular, when it comes to, figuring out, I guess, kind of like evaluating their own business, and I know you mentioned a little bit about, like looking up, seeing what the kind of the going rate is, but for those who may be dealing with, I think a lot of it, like the imposter syndrome or kind of a bit of the doubt and stuff, and what kind of advice would you give those women that know they're devaluing their businesses, but they're kind of fighting that self?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is just don't be so quick to put your services on the clearance rack. And I'm gonna say, I use this analogy a lot. When you think about the clearance rack, and I like the clearance rack, don't get me wrong, but you push away potential customers that are looking to spend top tier or high end dollars. Clearance rack, people just kind of want a quick, turn around, quick fix. And so those might not be the clients that you're looking for necessarily, because there's not a lot of investment. It's just like, okay, this is something quick, I need it really quickly. So don't be so quick before even starting to say, okay, 10%, well, 100% off or 90% off, just like
$3.99.
Exactly. You want to make sure that you believe in what you're doing, because we all have a gift. Everybody has a way that they do things. I tell my kids, like, it's the way I make my sauce. So like they say, I love your spaghetti. I don't like anybody else's spaghetti. I don't know what you do. It's like, it's the way I make my sauce. And that's the same thing with the service that you provide. There are probably hundreds of thousands of grant writers out here, but it's the way I make my sauce. So I know that my sauce might not be for everybody, but somebody likes it and they want it, and so they're going to pay the money for it because they enjoy it. So you have to look at it that way. You have to just believe in your product or your service, and then you can, again, if you don't want to go like high end, then look at the range. And then just kind of say, okay, well, I'm starting out, I don't want to lowball it too much, so I'm going to stay right within this low to medium range. And just be confident in what you do. Like, we all have a gift, and your gift will make room for you. So if 10 people say that's too high, I guarantee 10 more say this is perfect. So that's one way to look at it.
I love that. It really is about, believing in your product and your service and having the confidence. And I think, just getting out there and taking those steps. But again, do that research first.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because I think on the end you have the people that kind of devalue, and then you do have those that
y'all are kind of scamming a little bit.
Pull prices out the sky.
Right.
You're like, okay. But, so for people that want to potentially work with you, and you guys just work with nonprofits, right?
Well, we do work with some agencies. A lot of people will come to me and say, do you do small business grants? And we have, but those are so few and far between. So what we would do is kind of redirect you into a few opportunities that may be available, but we primarily work with either community agencies or nonprofits. So if it's like a board of health or a local school, we do work with those as well.
Okay. So for people that are wanting to work with you guys, how can they reach you? How can they find out more information?
Sure. So first thing, our website is www.mandmnpc.com. So that's a lot. We'll be able to find
It'll be in the show notes.
You can also find us on social media. On Facebook, it's just Marshall and Marshall Nonprofit Consulting. That's usually how most people find us, and then it'll direct you straight to the website. If you're looking for me, I am on LinkedIn, Marsha L. Marshall, so you can find me there as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I love talking with you today, and I would love, kind of off topic, to have you do a workshop for the group too, because I think you have a wealth of knowledge, and we have a lot of members with nonprofits and things like that, so we'll definitely help out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and you guys make sure you tune in next week. All right, bye.